Thanks for the memory of rainy afternoons, swingy Harlem tunes, and motor trips, and burning lips, and burning toasts and prunes. How lovely it was. We were getting out of an airplane.
That was North Africa.
After a bad night.
Look a little punchy. I think that's the... That was when I was sleeping in that hotel in Tunis with a mosquito netting.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I found one inside the netting. This was the next day, I think. I looked like I'd been battling with it. Oh.
Okay.
You know, it's amazing, isn't it, that how you get hooked into things. Because when we were doing the Pepsodent show at Sunset and Vaughn, and Cap staff said to me, they want to see you down at March Field, Riverside. I said, I don't want to enlist. I said, no, they want you to do a show down there. And I said, what for? There's no war? And I'd never played camps or anything, you know. And they said, well, I didn't know he had a brother down there. Next year, Francis and I were, here we are, on a bus with Skinny Ennis and the band and Bill Goodwin.
Yeah.
And we're on the way. And the audience was so sensational. Do you remember that?
Oh, my goodness, yes.
And I said, wait a minute, how long has this been going on? At Sunset and Vine, they'd come in there and sit there, you know, they're all actors and they're looking for jobs, saying, okay, make us laugh. But these kids were sensational. So went to Camp Pendleton the next week and kept going around. And finally, the war started in December. They declared war. Then it became very dramatic. And I guess we spent about 5 years just going around the country. I think we did 2 shows at NBC in 5 years, you know? And the rest was the South Pacific and England, Africa, and the Caribbean, Panama and all that stuff, Guantanamo.
It was the beginning of fond memories. Fond memories.
Yeah. Tony was our orchestra. That was it. 4 of us started. Then we picked up Patty. When did we pick you up? About 45?
44.
44. South Pacific?
Right.
Yes, that's right.
Picked up Patty with the South Pacific, and that was kind of interesting too, I'll tell you that.
I want you to meet our crew here. I know you're going to enjoy seeing them. First, we have a young lady here, one of the finest dancers in Broadway and Hollywood, Miss Patty Thomas, right here. Come on out, Patty. What a jungle, huh? This is it, huh, fellas? How do you feel, Patty?
Fine, fine.
You look beautiful. You have some beautiful spots on you. I want to tell you right now. Anybody wouldn't climb a tree for that is mad. I want to tell you. Right here, I want you to meet a guy that's been our orchestra the past few years, Mr. Tony Romano, right here. Come on, Tony boy. How do you feel?
Oh, I don't know, Dad.
You look like an escaped prisoner. You look good. Tony Romano. Here is a gal I know you love. Really one of the gals been doing a tremendous morale job for the past couple of years. And our fine singer, Miss Frances Langford, right here. Look at that beautiful Lily Daché hat here. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Who have you got up in there with you, dear? Huh? Here's a guy I know you're waiting to see, Professor Jerry Colonna, right here. Give him your jungle call, old man. Just give him your jungle call.
I think when you work one of those trips and you get to know each other, you know, there's a certain relationship that develops that you feel, you know, part of a group that you want to be with. Because we went from, when did we start? 1940?
42. In the spring of 1942, right?
And,
right.
And we went on and on and on.
Right.
Mandolins began to play, and as soon as they danced, I heard him say, New Jersey was never like this. the bells began to ring-o, and they rode away on a mule. To prove I'm not joking, if you're in Hoboken, drop in for a minute and you'll meet Conchita, Marquita, Sandita, Pepe, Rita, Juanita,
I bet when I started you thought I was lousy, huh? Follow me, Billy. Around, kid. All the way. Hey! Oh, that way. Let me hear from.
I think we were very lucky in being that we were so mobile and just picking up this and,
Just a few of us,
and
yeah.
doing a show anywhere, anytime we were ready. And so we didn't worry about whether it was a microphone or...
I think after a while we got a little over anxious. We'd do a show for just any reason at all. Any reason.
I remember we did a show one time on a... I had to dance on the hood of a Jeep. And that's when you sort of ad-lib your routine.
You know, I think that fits your act pretty well.
Ah, you're tacky. You are so tacky.
Yeah, they used to
Yeah.
come up. They used to come up and...
Ooh, remember the first time you said, "Who wants to come up here and dance with Patty?" And the half the group just the stage was going flew, and the stage was just going to flatten down.
Have you got some shots of her in that outfit that her mother made for her, that little satin outfit?
My mother didn't
Have you
sew.
got some shots of
We
her?
have some shots of you.
You better get 'em,
dancing.
because-
Real
Right.
short outfit.
Yeah.
She was too much, you know. She was about 6 years old when she did that. And she came out there with this blonde hair hanging down and this little homemade outfit, you know, and they went, "Whoa." And I got back from that trip in the South Pacific, and I was walking down 8th Avenue, 7th Avenue, in front of the Taft Hotel. And the doorman stopped me and said, "Whatever happened to Patty Thomas?" He was there. He saw her, and that, you know.
That's funny.
I'm in the mood for love, simply because you're near me. Funny, but when you're near me, I'm in the mood for love. Heaven is in.
That's insubordination. I could break you for that.
You know, the first song I ever sang in a picture was called "I'm in the Mood for Love." It was written for me by Jimmy McHugh and Dorothy Fields. And I always sang that on all the shows. And no matter where we went, invariably I'd sing, "I'm in the mood for love." And some guy would stand up in the audience and yell, "Sister, you've come to the right place." You just know he just ran over from the last show to do it again.
She started to sing this. What's the sing?
I'm in the mood for love.
The guy in the audience stood up and says, "You came to the right place, honey."
Simply because you're near me. Funny, but when you're near me,
Oh, funny, but...
I'm in the mood for love.
Oh, funny, but...
Heaven is in your eyes, bright as the stars we're under. Oh, is it any wonder I'm in the mood for love.
Why stop to think of whether
Anything in your pockets?
this might fade? We put our hearts together. Now we are one.
Who's there?
He's
The damaged pockets of anything. You meet yourself in the back here.
If it should rain, we'll let it. But for tonight, forget it. I'm in the mood for love.
You know, we were in Algiers in '43, and we're doing a radio show with Hal Block and
Back to the States that night.
yeah, that's right. And this fella came up, said, Colonel Ott wants to talk to you. I said, well, tell him that we'll talk to him after the show and so on and so on. He said, he's General Eisenhower's aide. I said, where is he? Because we wanted to see Eisenhower, you know? And he said, the general's waiting for you up on the hill. I said, that's all today, folks. Goodbye. And we ran up to see Eisenhower. And it was the first time we'd met him. And he said, he's so nice to us and everything. And put pictures out for us to pick. His pictures. We wanted a picture. And he put him on. He said, this is my favorite. And he put and he said, well, I hear you've had a couple of bombings, you know, in England and so on. So I said, well, don't worry, you get plenty of sleep here because we haven't had a bombing. We're staying at the Aleti Hotel in Algiers. He said, we haven't had a bombing here for 6 or 7 months, so we're fine here, so and so. 4 o'clock in the morning is, oh, air raid siren. I said, what the hell is that? And it's a raid. And I said to Jack Pepper, quick, run up and get Frances Langford, because we promised Frances, you know, that we'd wake her if we weren't in her room, you know. And anyway.
What? Don't say that.
I love that tape. I wish I had that tape. A little slow with it.
A little slow.
We all went down into the basement, which was their air raid shelter.
Underground.
Let me tell you something. It was murder. And we sat down there.
No,
Can't tell you the rest of it.
No.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't do that.
You can't do that.
So funny.
I tried.
I can do
There
that.
was a guy came down there. A guy came down there, big fat guy with his night clothes, with his wife, and he sat next to us.
Horrible.
And he was not polite. He had something. I think he had corned beef and cabbage or something, because he wasn't polite. And this he kept giving out this gas.
In a small room.
His wife had the fan remember.
And on and on and on. And his wife never even looked at him. She was used to it, I guess. But we had to sit there, and we're stuck there, you know. And after a while, we didn't notice anything. We weren't with it. But I finally sent Eisenhower Wise, thanks for the rest. Thanks very much for the rest. We were down there for about 2 hours with this fellow who was with the enemy, trying to snuff us out.
Now I'd like you to meet a member of our troupe that has just returned from the South Pacific, a man who's been all over, a famous world traveler, Professor Colonna, right here. There he is. Say, Professor, we'd like a few words on your experience as a world traveler. That Pacific tour wasn't your first big trip, was it, Colonna?
Oh, no, I've been to England, Russia, Australia, Africa, and Alaska.
You've been to England, Russia, Australia, Africa, and Alaska.
Yes. I'll get one of your checks cashed yet.
Now, where we were going down to Sydney, weren't we?
We were off the coast of
Yeah,
Newcastle.
We were in a Navy Catalina, and all at once the guy came back and started throwing our luggage overboard. And I said, what happened? He said, one of the motors is out, and we're going to have to make a forced landing. And they didn't have enough. They didn't want to make it on the ocean. They thought it was too rough. What's the place we made a landing at?
Laurelton.
Newcastle.
Laurelton, Australia.
Laurelton?
Right.
Exactly.
Oh, we went to Newcastle.
And we
That's
hit
right,
that
yeah.
water and skipped about 100 feet, skipped another 50 feet,
Right.
then ran into a sandbar.
Right.
And if we'd hit that first, we'd have blown up.
Is that right?
You realize that?
Now you tell me.
I didn't know that.
And it was 2 days before they really found us. And it was all over the world that we were lost.
You know, the weather down there is like it is here. Of course, they have a light sprinkle now and then. Light sprinkle, that's South Pacific. For man the boats, boys, the island disappeared again.
In Landia, when we were in Landia, we picked up Henry McLemore, the columnist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was traveling with us because he found out we had a case of scotch.
That's right.
And he was a marvelous guy with a great sense of humor. And we're playing Numfor. And after the show, we're sitting in a little tent-like down there with a general, lot of people. And a guy came in and handed the general a note that said, Jap was discovered 200 feet from the stage. And I handed it to McLemore, and he looked at it and said, was he coming or going?
Don't tell me you didn't get that. That almost got me. You ready?
We were playing an island called Bonica down in the South Pacific. And this guy came over to us and he said, could you possibly come over to Bavuvu? I said, where the hell is that? He said, that's right here in just about 15 minutes by Piper Cub. I said,
right.
Piper Cub? He said, we don't have a runway. You have to land on the road. And there were 8 of us at that time.
We each had a plane.
Now, what year was
I
that?
had a plane.
What year was that?
44.
Was that still 4? It has to be
Yeah,
44.
Because we had been in Guadalcanal, Espiritu Santo.
So you got eight Piper Cubs, and it was the 1st Marine Division
That's right.
going into Peleliu, training to go into Peleliu. It's amazing, boy. And you knew
Yeah.
we landed on that road. As we went over, 15,000 guys cheered at every plane. And the plane would just go up in the air from those cheers. Anyway, we did the show, and this is a very dramatic show because you knew they were going to invade Peleliu, and you had to stand on that stage and do it. And I have a picture. I went out and sat with General Rupertus, who was the head of the Marine Division there, and watched, the show with him. And then found out later that they went in, they lost about 60% of their guys.
If I had my way, dear, forever there'd be a garden of roses for you and for me.
Now, wait a minute. That kiss is not in my contract. Read the small type. Go ahead.
Jerry Colon and I used to like to make a lot of noise in hospitals because they weren't used to that. So we'd get in and say, all right, don't anybody get up. And they're all roped up, these guys. And we'd get in bed with one of the nurses or do anything to break it up, yell, and then they'd sing, and we'd do our impressions, anything loud in the hospital, because they were all so used to having, a walk in, how do you feel, and so on. Dance with the nurses. We saw so much of it because we played the hospitals all the time. Every place you went, you had to go to the hospital.
Hi, Clem. Hi. Where you going? Fishing? What do you got in the mouth?
Worms.
Well, good luck.
Fungus.
Yeah.
Oh, you had it on your feet.
Oh,
I got it in my
and
ears.
you had it in your ears.
No, I did.
She had it in her ear.
Yeah.
Didn't you have it?
No.
Because George Hallis,
And I had it in my own nose.
the coach of the Bears, now then the owner, but he was coach of the Bears, was our special service officer in the South Pacific. And we played all this stuff from MacArthur down there and went up to Biak, all this kind of stuff around there. And we're supposed to leave. And we've been out now about 3 months, and we're pretty tired. And he came up to me and he said, there's 5,000 Australians down here. They've been down here training, and they've never had a show. And if you would go, I said, wait a minute. Let me tell you something. I've got fungus on my feet. We've been out about 3 months. Frances has it in her ears. I said, I'd like to get the hell out of here and get home. And he looked at me and he said, well, you know, they've never had a show. And I looked at this guy, and he had a little tear coming out of his eye. George Hallis. And I didn't think he was that good of an actor, but here he is. So I said, Frances, come over here, Frances. And I said, tell Frances about it. And he said to Frances, same story. He said, we're so-and-so and so-and-so, and they're up there, these guys, and they've been away from home for 9 months, and they've never seen anybody, and da-da-da-da-da-da. And I looked at her, and she looked at me. We went up and played that extra date, fungus and all.
I'll be seeing you in every lovely summer's day, in everything that's bright and gay. I'll always think of you that way. I'll see you in the morning sun, and when the night is new, I'll be looking at the moon, but I'll be seeing you.
Remember, we were planning to fly to China and fly the hump, and the war ended, and we said, we were a little disappointed.
That's right, that's right. That's one theater we missed. Wasn't it?
Yes.
Thanks for the memory, you Uncle Sammy's crew. Our minutes are too few. I wish that I could kiss each and every one of you.
You want to get us trampled to death? Are you kidding? What's the matter? You blowing your roof or something? How about Mr. Jerry Colonna right here?
Oh, thanks all you men dressed in khaki. You may think that I'm a bit wacky.
Why don't you get back in the sacky?
There's room for two. Your nose and you.
Miss Patty Thomas right here, Miss Patty. Just sing a little ditty there, girl. Thanks for the memory. Just say thank you.
Thank you for the memory.
I hope you like it.
I hope you liked my dance and found it not too revolting. I was gonna bring my fans, but one of the fans was molting.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
There was so much gratification connected with this, you know. You got to thinking of what you were doing and how damn lucky you were to have the chance to do it. I know everybody felt that way. Otherwise, they wouldn't go. You know, they didn't have to go. And you were there. You were the recipient of their marvelous love.
And once you started it, you couldn't stop.
No.
That's
You
right.
just were so carried away with it.
Thanks from America to all our men in blue, our boys in khaki too, our tough Marines, our Coast Guard, our Army nurses true. We thank you so much. And thanks to our brave allies, the gallant Russian bear, the British everywhere, the free French and the Chinese, and you Latins way down there. We thank you so much, and we'll be seeing you. And meantime, this is Bob Hope thanking you for those letters to Command Performance, Armed Forces Radio, Los Angeles, USA. Speaking for everybody on Command Performance and saying the best of the best from the USA. So long.